And that is usually where I test out a lot of my bad ideas is on my YouTube channel. One time I shuffled my Spotify songs and then whatever song it landed on, I made a business card for that song, which is a terrible idea. But that was like a bad idea that turned into a really fun video.
On this episode, I was joined by my friend Meg Dalessandro. She is a content producer at Wistia. So, we talked a little bit about video. We also talked about her newsletter. We talked all about the creative process, which is what we do around here. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Meg, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited you're here. It's been a while since we have chatted, and we met originally in a creative community where it was just a bunch of creators talking about the creative process, and we were all working on our businesses, our projects, just all the things that we're working on and really supporting each other. And so that's where we originally met. And now you are working with Wistia, which is cool. You said it was kind of your dream job. So
Yeah.
why don't you tell us a little bit about your role and what you're doing now?
Yeah. So a little bit of, I guess, lore or context behind why it feels sort of like a full circle moment for me being at Wistia is I originally went to art school and studied graphic design and UX experience, video, all that kind of stuff. Left school, went to a SaaS startup called Privy. And while I was there, they were like, oh, cool. You can do video. Let's experiment with that. And that's actually how I got introduced to Wistia is because they had this really cool, like funny, engaging video that was asking people just to take a survey, but they did the hustle. So they basically were like, take the survey, do, 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 do. And they had a whole like flash mob. And I just thought it was so cool, especially back in 2017 or 2016. LinkedIn was not nearly as wacky as it is today. And so that really stuck in my brain of like, ooh, I could make B2B really fun and interesting. And it was kind of that first aha moment I had where it was like, ooh, marketing is cool. It was also the first position where coming in as just a designer, my boss at Privy taught me about what a marketing funnel is. And that's sort of where I embarked on this journey of being a Swiss Army knife of design, video, and marketing all kind of collaborated into one. So that's kind of where that full circle moment came from is because a lot of the coworkers I worked with back at Privy, once they found out I got this job, they were all texting me like, oh my God, you manifested that. You've been saying that forever. Or even over the years, we're having a hard day at work. And I'm like, hey, is Wistia hiring? Like, oh man, that just looked like such a fun team to be a part of. And because I care so deeply about video marketing and how it's so influential and impactful for businesses, it really was just a perfect marriage of values, like content, team, culture, all the above. So I'm really excited. I just joined their content team as a content producer, and I'll be focusing mostly on offer related content. So things like downloadable guides or other events or video series that would hopefully get you to opt into more stuff from Wistia.
I love that.
If you told me that I was working here even literally a year ago, I would laugh and be like, I wish. Which sounds so cheesy and so like, I don't know, yeah, just so cheesy, but it's so true. It really, all the stars just aligned, and I feel very lucky.
Yeah. And it does sound cheesy. That's amazing. I feel like cliches are cliches for a reason. Timing is everything. And for whatever reason, maybe now is just the perfect time. You have all of these skills that you've developed along the way. And now you're joining this team that you've thought about joining. And now you're there, which is so cool. And you get to do what you love. You get to continue to create. You are obviously very creative in the design space, and you love doing videos on your own on YouTube. You're a writer. You love creating content that really resonates with people. And you get to work on that craft at your job, which is amazing. What are the biggest challenges that you're seeing that businesses are coming to Wistia for?
Yeah, I think a lot of businesses are feeding this social media engine or this social media machine, and they see video out in the wild, whether it's on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever they're watching videos. But video is becoming more and more prevalent everywhere in all parts of our kind of media driven lives. And I think to try and get on top of that, people have started creating a lot of social media videos, but kind of treating video as disposable. Like I create a video, I post it to social media, and then it's gone forever. But what Wistia really tries to help businesses see is to get videos to work harder for you. You can actually put them and embed them on your website and then gain a lot of insights from that about who's actually engaging with this content. How can you retarget them? How can you further understand your audience through the content you're making, which some of the stuff you can get through, online analytics through whichever platform, but Wistia is really second to none when it comes to understanding your audience through video marketing, I would say.
Video is interesting because it's easier than ever before to create video, but it's still challenging to know how you're gonna produce it, what it needs to look like so that you are retaining people, that it's exciting enough. What are you sharing? What do you have to write scripts? Do you not? There's just so much conversation around it. So when you're working with businesses, what are some of the key things that you are encouraging them to look at so that they can produce a high quality video?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, especially when thinking about quality. I go back to honestly, aside from literally storyboarding and the content of what you're saying in your video, getting your point across in the first few seconds to really hold that person's attention so they stay longer for your message. Aside from all that production and kind of more theoretical content knowledge, I would say you really want to have control over your content. And this is sort of why people went from just posting things on social media to then they're coming back to email lists or embedding things on their website because it gives them the control over how people are interacting with their content. So instead of uploading a video to YouTube where it's going to be sandwiched with a bunch of random ads, probably from competitors or from other irrelevant stuff, people can just focus on what you have to say and just your content. So I think it kind of gives people a sense of control over their content that I think people are really missing, especially as people continue to dump more effort and investment into platforms and algorithms and constantly chasing the algorithm, which is always changing. I think people are starting to get tired of the chase. Like people really are starting to think more about content, not just in a way of how do I become viral, but how does this actually connect to the person that I want to connect to? And how does that make them remember me and make me memorable with them? And it's hard to be memorable when you have a bunch of ads and a bunch of other stuff competing for your attention in the same 4 seconds or span. So I think that's what has been really cool, at least kind of the aha moment for me. I remember going into Wistia and I knew there was a case for Wistia and YouTube because I've also been a customer of Wistia for years, but I wanted to hear their stance on like, are we frenemies with YouTube? Like, do we talk about YouTube? Like, am I allowed to talk about YouTube? Because I love YouTube. And the stance is like, absolutely. Like, we think that you should be using all of these platforms and all these channels, but they're channels. They're not just your only strategy. And so I think always trying to connect it back to you, back to the brand, back to the universal emotion that you're trying to evoke. I think the more control you have over that, the better. And so that can come from embedding where you embed it. It can come from how you're scripting your content to that first like 5 to 10 seconds. How do I really connect with someone so that they identify with what I'm saying? Like, how do I basically leave a blank for them to fill in without making it super obvious? Because you don't want to just tell people, buy now, like follow me, subscribe. Like that's not really compelling. They need to know why. They need to see, ooh, I see myself in this content or I see myself in this. And then they'll be more likely to join.
You are first of all, I'm laughing because I feel like there is such this framework that so many creatives or at least video content creators use, and it does feel very, "Hey, here's some things we're gonna talk about in this video, and also before we keep going, like, subscribe, and so you don't miss it," and it just feels I don't like the feeling of it, but also so many creators are doing it that have built big audiences, and so I'm like, "Hey, I guess it works." So you have to remind people to do whatever it is that you want them to do, and I think
Mhm.
and you and I, before we hit record, we were talking a little bit about this concept of how do you stay authentic and true, and you feel good about your content, and you're not being very promoty, but at the same time, you wanna promote your work because you're proud of it, and you want people to see it, and you want people to be part of that community, and so you kind of have to do both of those things in the way that feels most comfortable to you.
Yeah, totally. I definitely struggle with taking my own advice there. I will always tell clients that I've worked with, you cannot post a podcast, a blog post, or whatever you're creating one singular time and expect everyone who would find that useful to see it in that exact moment. Just back to the idea of control over the algorithms, you never know how that person's feed looks that day or what other things you're competing with, or even outside of all algorithms, just life in general. Like people have competing priorities and your brand or your content is not one of them. Honestly, I think the sooner you realize that, it kind of helps you get over that hump of feeling too self-promoty, a little icky, a little narcissistic maybe, of feeling like, "Oh, I don't wanna keep talking about myself. I don't wanna keep promoting myself." 'Cause I honestly struggle with that a lot too. I always say that you should be posting and reposting your own work, because people really for things to stick in people's brains and for them to be remembered, they need to have iterations or repetition. That's just how our brains work. So yeah, I think I really struggle with that. I'm very guilty of spending a lot of time on a podcast or a newsletter or a video. And then by the end of the thing, I am just so sick of looking at it because I've been staring at it and I've been working on it and I've been rehashing it that I just am sick of it and I'm over it. So I just say, okay, I'll post it. I did it. Done. Box checked. Like move on to the next thing because personally, I am most excited by a creative project in the very beginning, messy, early stages where you're just connecting the dots, throwing ideas out there. Like I love bad ideas. I think bad ideas are the thing that makes the world go round because without bad ideas, we wouldn't find the good ones. And so I love brainstorming and I love coming up with terrible ideas. One, because they're hilarious when you think of really bad ideas. But also because that points out to a lot of the problems that you're fixing. Sometimes thinking of a really bad idea will actually highlight the problem further and get you closer to an actual solution that's better than something maybe more generic.
So how do you decide what project you're gonna work on? How do you come up with enough bad ideas that then you generate a good idea and then you pick that one and move forward with it?
Yeah. Oh, that's so tough. I think because I love to indulge in a brainstorm and I could just spend months brainstorming things and get literally done just because I love to brainstorm, I have to give myself a cutoff date of, okay, I've come back to this document, say 3 times, and I've done 3 brainstorming sessions, and I now let me start connecting the dots. And then I'll give myself maybe 1 or 2, 3 sessions of connecting the dots, and then I get into that refinement stage of, all right, now I'm actually crafting sentences that actually push the stuff together. So I think it's a little bit of just, like a self-discipline practice of, like, knowing when to cut yourself off of your favorite, station or your favorite portion of the creative process. Because I actually work with a lot of video editors and creators at Wistia who really love the refinement stage. Like, they like brainstorming and stuff, but their jam is getting into the nitty-gritty technical stuff of just editing it, refining it, making it perfect, and they love that very ending stage of it being like, "Oh, it's done, it's beautiful, look at it." Whereas I'm like, "Oh, like, I'm looking at this forever, I'm so over it." So I think also finding people who kind of complement your creative process, and whether you're working on the project with them or not, like, going to someone and just getting an opinion. Sometimes that can help get you unstuck out of a certain phase of your creative process, I've found. Like, if I'm just rehashing ideas over and over and over again, I start realizing, okay, maybe I'm running in circles in my own brain and I need to take a different track and I need to hit up a friend. I need to hit up a colleague or just hit up AI and be like, hey, like, give me some recommendations for this newsletter, keeping in mind that I want them to do this and I don't want them to do that. Don't change any of the text or whatever. Just give me recommendations of how you would think about this problem. So that's also a good thing if you don't have anyone specifically there you're thinking, oh, they can really be a partner with me on this. Or honestly, I like to have an AI partner and like a human partner look at things too. But I think it's just better to get your eyes on more eyes on your work, which is hard. I think once I got out of like art school and out of the kind of creative physical community, it was a lot harder to find those creative partnerships. And that's actually what led me to the Creator Kitchen, which is where we met. And I think through that community, that really revived my sense of creativity and being able to hold a creative practice and like hold myself to it. Because often I would get stuck in that early stages of all the big ideas, all the things, and then it's all the things that I can no longer do because I'm just like suffocating in all the things. So I'm like, oh my God, like where do I start? So I do struggle with that a lot is wanting to do everything. Like even with books, like I'm reading 4 or 5 different books at a time and like it'll take me a year or 2 to finish them, but I don't care because I'm like, I'm getting what I need from them at a certain time. Which people might think that's crazy, but if that helps, they're not all like novels and stuff. So I'm not like that weird where it's like the middle of a really big story. I'm like, all right, I'm going to switch over to this book. Like most of them are kind of more nonfiction-y books where it's a little bit easier to like pop in and pop out of them. But yeah, I'm just rambling now.
I love that. I do that too, and I throw in fiction books now too, but I find that The fiction, I usually have one fiction book and then 2 or 3 nonfiction books, because if I read too many fiction books, I'm thinking, "Wait, which story is what?" And I forget
Exactly.
where I'm going with that. But I do that all the time. In fact, sometimes I'll be reading like 4 books, and then I decide, "Oh, wait a second. This book that I loved a year ago, I actually am gonna pick that book up and now just read a couple pages just because I loved the book." And you know how everything has energy, and there's some books that I just love so much, and if you asked me, "Well, what's a specific phrase or sentence or chapter out of the book?" I couldn't tell you. I just know the way that the book makes me feel when I read it,
Yes.
and I just love that. So sometimes, in fact, I did that the other day with, Kent Newburn's book, Dancing with the Gods, which is an
Ooh, I haven't heard of
incredible
that one. I'll have to look
book.
into it.
It's such a good book. I have it right here because I actually just did a video about it, but anyway, all right. So let's go into some of your creative projects. You have a newsletter called Sorry I Missed You,
Yes, I
which is
do.
such a great title. I love that.
Yeah.
So tell us about what prompted you to start this. What is it about?
Yeah, so it is a voicemail newsletter. And so as I was thinking about how to get myself out of the ideas phase and into the actual creation phase, I started experimenting with different ways of cataloging my ideas. So it actually started with me doing voice notes to myself, just kind of rambling about ideas that I had. Because I had a kind of ongoing note in my phone of like good marketing things I've seen, bad marketing things I've seen, just general creative ideas and thoughts that I'd had. And then I basically was like, all right, but how do I actually tie this all together? And then I had to go back to my roots and think, well, why do I care about this stuff in general? Like, why am I so attracted to the idea of being memorable? And I think back to my childhood. I grew up with a single mom and we lived with my grandparents. And so my papa, my grandfather, was a father figure to me. And he was my best friend, my biggest supporter. He is totally where I get my sense of humor from. Just so much of me is from him. And when I was in high school, he was diagnosed with dementia. And so that was a really hard time because I watched him lose himself and also forget me and everyone. And so I think just from that really challenging time and just having to really grow up through that pretty fast and take care of him, it really distilled this really like big passion for memory and just thinking about why do we keep our memories? How do we keep the stories we keep and why do our brains work like that? And I think because even just as a kid before all of that, like I was obsessed with looking at photo books. Like I would just that was one of my favorite things to do as a kid is just pull out a big random photo book and then just go through and like make up stories about the people. Like I had no idea who they were. They were a bunch of like black and white photos, or if they were from like when I was really little, like trips to Disney World or just like to the zoo or like random things. And I would just make up stories about all that stuff. And so I have just always been really interested in the idea of like memory, whether it was through photography or storytelling. And then just that experience with my papa really has always stuck with me and has always been a really big influence to a lot of my work. And so that's what led me to this podcast or voicemail newsletter podcast thing, hybrid, whatever you want to call it. Sorry I Missed You. It's called Sorry I Missed You because every episode is a voicemail. So I call you and I say, hey, it's Meg. It's been a while. And then I talk about whatever I want to talk about that week or that month. It's usually a monthly podcast, just from my own bandwidth. And like I said, I love to marinate in that ideas connecting the dots phase. So selfishly, like I love just taking the whole month to think about what am I thinking about this month? How do I synthesize that down into something that resonates with other people? And how do I make that actionable? And I think I was actually just reading something yesterday from Jay Akunzo, actually, where it was talking about like what type of storyteller are you? And I definitely identify with the evangelist storyteller where I lead with a lot of emotion. Like that's what really connects me to my stories and to other people's stories is like universal emotion. And that was something that really came through in all of my writing. And I think this writing was really more of an exploration of why do I care about marketing and why should other people care about marketing? So I think it was until probably 5 or maybe even 10 episodes in, I didn't even get to that whole, oh, I should talk about memory thing. It kind of just started as a podcast where I was just going to talk about marketing stuff and design stuff and brand stuff. And I wanted to have this fun conversational tone. And just honestly, I started it so I could get better at writing and just force myself into a habit of shipping something every month. And so now I've been doing it for going on 3 years, which is wild. And yeah, it's just been so fun. It's crazy to think. I was just going through my archive yesterday and just looking back at like my really old posts, and I'm like, oh my God, my writing has changed so much. Like it's been really cool to see just how that has changed because I don't know, like you were just saying, I get so over things after I post them that I just forget. And so it's nice to have some distance between you and the thing you created to come back and say, you know what, that was really awesome. It's really awesome to see your own like awesomeness with some distance.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like when how Seth Godin talks about he thinks everyone should write a blog every day,
Mhm.
regardless of if people read it or not.
Yeah.
It's just this idea to share your ideas with the world and or yourself.
Hmm.
And and I really love that concept. Now, with that newsletter,
Hmm.
is it scripted or non-scripted? And how do you feel about creating do you have to do videos that are scripted or non-scripted? I'm always so torn between which to do.
Hmm. Yeah. I started doing just like the voice note thing and then going through and then cleaning up all the likes and the ums and the you knows and all those sort of repeat phrases. And then I started finding that even though that was very engaging for the audio version, for the read, like I say it's like the transcript, but it's kind of like the blog post version that people get in their actual email, like the actual newsletter. I just found that it was really challenging for me to kind of write for both to be the same thing because you're asking it's two very different mediums, like whether you're listening or whether you're reading. And so I have started to script. I will start with the voice note, and that's what I kind of base the blog post off of. So it's a little bit of both because I do write down a bunch of ideas, but then once I actually get into the writing phase, I start or sorry, back up. So basically, I start with an audio file, which then gets put into a document of just a bunch of random things. And they're usually out of order if they're not really in like an actionable thing. Like because I'm so driven by emotion, a lot of my notes are just very much me ranting and raving or being really excited about things. And then I have to go back in and say, okay, now how do I make this applicable and actionable for people that are reading it? And then that's where it gets a little bit more scripted because I think off the top of my head, I'm more thinking about how it made me feel versus, okay, now how do I put this into like marketing practice? So I think so it's a little bit of both. And I really struggle with, even when I do my YouTube videos, I would say my script is bullet points. It's like, okay, intro. Hey, I'm Meg and we're going to make this thing. And then, all right, now let's get into the design portion. And then it's like script is just like design portion. It's just like improv. And then the end, it has like a little script for the out that's like, hey, and subscribe, blah, blah, blah. So I think my work is very much a mix between scripting and improv because that's just how my voice comes through the best. I think when I try to overly script things, I try to stuff too many jokes in or I try to like stuff too much stuff in. And I think that becomes really overwhelming when you start hearing it back audibly. So I think the audio version really helps me kind of decide, okay, we're not going to talk about this today, maybe next time. And I think that's honestly, as a creative, one of the hardest things to do is to decide what not to do.
That is same thing with writing, right? Like
Mhm.
what do you leave out? In fact, one of my friends, she'll send me her work and already knows that I'm going to cut so much of it because she loves using lots of adjectives and she overly explains stuff. And so for me, I learned this from my writing coach. It's what you get rid of, it's what you remove. This is why I think a lot of the books that resonate with millions and millions of people, they say things so simply, but they probably had to write like 1,000 words in order to get that one paragraph that says what most people would have said in the 1,000 words. One of my favorite quotes I talk about all the time, which is I would have written a shorter note. I just didn't have the time.
That's so
Which
true.
was so true, right? And so I feel like I always have this conflict of because I do a lot of YouTube videos and some of them I have scripted and I have my teleprompter app and I am
Mhm.
just, and I love those videos because I feel like I say in 3 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes what would have taken me 10 minutes had I just
Mhm.
been riffing. However, sometimes when I do the videos where I am riffing, it's a little bit longer. I do feel like you do get a little bit more of my personality because
Mhm.
I am kind of just like thinking my way through it. So I think there's value to both. And I haven't landed on which one. Well, I definitely do more of what you said, like the bullet points when I'm
Mhm.
creating. And I like that. But on almost every time I'm done, I think if I would have scripted this, it would have been shorter. But is
Yep.
shorter better? Not
Mhm.
necessarily.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on live? Because I have been thinking about going live more on YouTube, not for really for the sake of what you said earlier, which was to ship. Now I ship every week anyway, but just to
Mhm.
like ship a little bit more and get stuff out.
Yeah.
I thought maybe doing a live that would force me to just have my bullet points and just to go. I've done that in the past, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on going live and creating live content, especially around video?
Yeah, I think I love live video. I watch a lot of Twitch streams and things like that in my free time. So a lot of like video game Twitch streams, things like that, or people just like hanging out. Different creators that I'll watch sometimes are put on like in the background, so it feels like we're kind of hanging out with people. And I would say I wish more people did it because I think it really is like a window into someone's life, into someone's thinking process. And what I struggle with, and I think I've majority of people really struggle with when it comes to live events, is the anxiety of it being live and of, yeah, you're gonna ramble a little bit. You might say something a little stupid. You might make a flub or lose your train of thought or any of those things. So I think for live events, it really matters most about connecting with the audience and like how are you getting the audience involved? Because I think if you're just going live just to share like a YouTube video of what would have just been a YouTube video anyways, it's like, okay, that's all right. But what are you then asking them to interact with? So it's sort of like when people host a webinar, you can host a pre-recorded webinar, and that's awesome because you are very polished, you feel very confident about what you're putting out there. It's less anxiety. But I still think even those pre-recorded webinars or whatever, you should always have a live Q&A because the whole reason people are there live in that time of their day, they took time out of their day to be there with you is to interact with you. And so I think that's probably the most important thing is really like what are you hoping to get out of that? And like what are you hoping the viewer is going to get out of that versus something that's pre-recorded? That because it is a huge ask to ask someone to take time out of their day and to hang out with you. It's like
Yeah.
asking someone to go out for coffee or to lunch or something like that. It is a time commitment. So I think if you're up for it, I think it's a super fun thing to experiment with. And then if you're ever feeling nervous, like invite some like real life friends to the chat or invite some friends that you know or some colleagues who you know will interact and kind of get that going. We just did some customer interviews for Wistia around how do you get people to engage in live events? How do you get people to be active in chat? And it's really just about making it easy for them. So instead of just opening up with, oh, how's everyone doing today? Like, there's kind of like good, like there's really nothing else to give there. Give them something that you can identify with by saying, oh, how many people are here to learn about video editing? Type 1 in the chat. Who's here to learn about event videos? Press 2 or put 2 in the chat. So literally all they have to do is press 1 or 2 and they're already engaging with you. So I think the more easy you can make it for people to engage with you, the more you're going to get out of that live experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why we love doing webinars
Mhm.
because it really we ask those exact questions. In fact, all the webinars that we start with, we always say, "Are you here? Are you this kind of person? Like one A, B, and C." And then type in the chat, which one are you? And like at the different levels, right? Like some people are
Mhm.
more experienced in whatever topic is that we're going into, and some are less experienced. And so we kind of have three different categories. And it's always fun to see where people are too, so that we
Mhm.
have a better understanding of the audience that's in the room.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so I love live. I think it's so fun. In fact, I used to do a show. We did a Facebook Live. It was called Delray Morning Live, and it was every Wednesday morning, and it was a live show, and I loved it. I'm huge. I think live is definitely fun. I don't do it very much now, but
Mhm.
I do think it would be fun to kind of get back into it. What
Definitely.
What are some bad ideas, Meg, that maybe turned into a good idea, or some things that you are thinking about potentially starting to work on? Or are you really not in that phase where you might be working on another project?
Yeah. Right now it's pretty much mostly the voicemail newsletter that's monthly, the Sorry I Missed You, which is about, heartfelt voicemails about making memorable things. And then I have my YouTube channel, which I honestly have not posted to in like a year, but I have videos that I have been editing. I'm in that phase of like it's the refinement phase and I don't like it. So it's hard for me sometimes to just push it over the edge. So I'm hoping that I will get some motivation to get back in with some distance now that I've had a lot of distance from it to get back in and start doing that too. And that is usually where I test out a lot of my bad ideas is on my YouTube channel. So I'll do like one time I shuffled my Spotify songs and then whatever song it landed on, I made a business card for that song, which is a terrible idea. When would you need a business card for a song? Like literally never. I guess if you're at a show and you can like hand it to a DJ or something, but like I doubt they're gonna take that. But that was like a bad idea that turned into a really fun video. So I think things like that where it's kind of like an unconventional way leading to an unconventional thing that's kind of useless, but through the process you just learn how to design a business card. And I'm always collecting bad ideas. Actually, on my website, I have it's like creative-blob.com/bad ideas. I believe it's bad ideas or bad idea blob. I'll have to send you the link, but it's this very old school looking page where I collect bad ideas and you can just add it to the blob. There's a forum where you can just submit your bad ideas. And I just got a really funny one earlier this week, which was good. And it was acrylic nails for dogs.
Oh, gee.
Terrible idea. Or like another one was like beer for kids. Like terrible idea, but funny. And like, I don't know, it's like thinking through all these like really bad ideas just I think highlights different problems that people are having. So I think that's usually where I test out a lot of my bad ideas. But that was the newest one that came in recently. I don't know what I'm gonna do with acrylic nails for dogs. Maybe that'll turn into something. Who knows?
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. I love it. I love that you're encouraging bad ideas because it's just ideas. Putting bad in front of it, it almost invites people. Everyone has ideas, but
Everyone.
everyone thinks that they need to come up with some brilliant idea. Instead, you're just
Mhm.
like, no, your only job is to come up with bad ideas. And at some point, one of those bad ideas is actually going to be a good idea. So invite yourself to do that every day and see what shows up, which is awesome.
Exactly. I fully believe everyone is creative.
Yes.
Even though previously I've worked on mostly teams where it was a very small marketing team, and then I would be the only like quote unquote creative person, like designer, video person. I very much believe everyone on earth is creative. And like I've seen spreadsheets that are just as marvelous as like paintings at the Louvre because they're just as impressive. And I just get really excited about enabling creativity in others. That was kind of another starting piece to the Sorry I Missed You. I think like the first piece I ever wrote for that was everyone's creative, like, creativity is a myth. Like creative people are a myth or something like that because I believe everyone's creative. And yeah, I
Yeah.
think you need to have a lot of bad ideas to get to the good ones.
Yes. All right. You said you were always reading lots of books. So I have to know,
Yep.
what are you reading? What are some things that you've read over the past year that have really influenced you?
Yeah, so one book that I've read or I have 3, I'll say. So 2 of them are oh no, I'll do 3 and then I'll do 3 different genres. So the first one is a comedy book that I love comedy and reading about comedy writing. It's like my favorite thing to read about. And so I read this book called Poking a Dead Frog, and it's by Mike Sacks, I believe, like Sacks, I think. And it's just a bunch of interviews with comedy writers. So, people like Amy Poehler or just anyone like if you like writers from Seinfeld, writers from like literally the most iconic TV you've ever heard of. And it's just their creative process and their thoughts on how to create things that matter, that are memorable, and that are funny, and like what is funny. So that has been a book that one of those books I have not finished because I love it so much that I literally will sit with an interview and then I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting close to the end. Like I got to close it and I don't want it to end. But I can see it being one of those books that even once I actually do get through all of it, it'll be something that I come back to. Cause I literally started this book like literally maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. But I have just been, like, milking it, like, savoring it because it's been so good, and it's because of the format. It's very easy to pop in and pop out of, so that's a good book. I have a bunch of other comedy book recommendations too, but I think in terms of a writing book, I've recently been reading Everybody Writes by Anne Handley,
I love
and
that.
love Anne. She has really, really changed the way that I approach writing, and, we got to see some of her masterclass stuff in the Creator Kitchen and everything, and just I love her newsletter, and I have been making my way through that book. And also in a similar way where I'll go and, like, hop in for a chapter or 2 and then hop out and, like, really give myself time to marinate on that and think through that about how that can come through in my work, and I just love the way she writes, kinda like we were saying that, "Oh, if I scripted this, it would be a lot shorter." I often think, I'm like, "If I tried to explain what Anne just did, I would have blabbed on for so long," but she is so good
I
at
know.
really striking a chord and getting the point across in so few words and it not sounding like she's chopping up or rushing through it. Like, it doesn't feel like I'm rushing through things. Because sometimes when you read writing and it's so concise, it can feel a little rushed or like, "Okay, we're just trying to get to the point," instead of, "I'm taking you on this journey." And so
Well,
that
she's
is
such a storyteller. All of
such a
her
story.
emails are storytelling coupled with great resources at the end that she shares, and her newsletter is one I think over the years I've probably opted out of and resubscribed to so many different newsletters. Hers, I am in it. I am a fan. I love her work. And we've talked about her newsletter before with previous guests, including Andrew Davis, who I know has been in the Creator Kitchen. Her book, I was surprised.
Good.
It's so good and it is very big. So you
Yeah.
could it can take a while to get through all the chapters and really take some time to think about it. But I really appreciate that what you do as a reader and allowing yourself to read a chapter and then put it down. I think so
Mhm.
often people feel like I have to read this book and finish it instead of, no, wait a second. Why are you reading the book? And if you really want to get something out of it, then it's okay to be more intentional and to
Mhm.
sit with it. Think about the ideas. If you're reading a great book, there should be some ideas in there that you want to marinate on for a while and see where it
Exactly.
might take you and even reread the chapter. And so I really appreciate that in readers, especially readers who great writers read a lot and they write a lot.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's funny because I was never a reader growing up. Like, I actually I was in, like, the slower reading group, like, I really struggled. I have ADHD, and it really was a hard thing for me growing up, and so I never got into reading as a kid because it was always with a deadline. It was always read this whole thing, and it was so overwhelming, and I never thought I could get into reading or writing, and even though I always, like, have had, like, an okay hand at writing, like, I never struggled with essays or anything like that, but I never really wrote for myself because it felt like, "Oh, I need to be, like, reading more," and I'm really bad at reading, which is embarrassing, so, like, I'm not gonna talk about it. But then later on, I kind of gave myself permission, like, once after I left college and just kind of the school system in general, it was like, I can actually read for fun and no one's grading me on it. No one's caring if I finish the book ever. I can start a book and then literally never go back to it, and it's totally okay. That doesn't make me stupid. It doesn't make me any less of a writer or of a creative or any of those things. But I think, like, really giving myself that permission was game changing for the way that I create work and just the way that I consume things. I think I was also way more closed off to a lot of content because I would feel anxious. Like, if you recommended me a book and and then I get the book and it's like this thick, I'd be like, "Oh my God, I can't start it because then I'm not gonna be able to finish it in too long. And then Kate's gonna ask me about how it's going and I'm not gonna know how to respond and I'm gonna sound stupid. She's gonna think I'm dumb." And it's like, that's not like people don't think like that at all.
no.
And I think, but that's what it felt like growing up as someone who really struggled with reading. And so if you told me that I was writing every month and that people were actually reading what I was writing, I would be baffled. Not a lot of people. Like, I will be totally honest, I have way less than 100 subscribers on this newsletter after 3 years, but to me, the replies that I get from people means so much more to me than, like, that big subscriber number
Yeah.
because it's like having a bunch of writing partners to really give you feedback of people that know you and care about you, are invested in you, and I just think that's so special. I think that this kind of goes back to way earlier, we were talking about being viral versus really connecting with people. I think I've kind of come around to feeling less of that imposter syndrome of like, "Oh, I should feel like I should be really hyper marketing myself so I have more subscribers," or "I can't start marketing myself till I have more subscribers." But really, you should be marketing yourself when you have no subscribers.
Yeah, well, absolutely. It comes back to if when you believe in your work, you believe it's a message that you want to share enough that it would resonate with someone else. There is an audience for that, and it goes back to the idea of create for no reason, right? It's create for no
Mhm.
reason. There is actually a reason. It does bring you joy, and that maybe it would turn into something. And so that's what I love about it is just like we can create for the joy of it, and then there might also be some bigger audience that can really resonate with your work, and you start to build that community from whether it's 100 people or 1 million people, and that's a beautiful thing. All right, one more book. You had three.
Oh, yes. This one, it also kind of leads into the question that you ask everybody too. But I just started this book literally this week, and it was from a recommendation from a fellow Creator Kitchen person as well. But it's called Meditations for Mortals. And it says 4 weeks to embrace your limitations and make time for what counts. So it's all about, this is going to sound depressing, so brace yourself, but it's not. It's like actually about shifting your perspective. So basically, the first chapter, it's like you're supposed to read one chapter a day, and it's purposely like meant for you to kind of reflect on it and how it evolves your life. But the kind of gist is that we as humans have finite time on this earth. Like, that is a fact. Like, we are not immortal. Like, we have finite time on this earth. We have finite time from the moment we are born. It is like we are put on a timeline. And that can feel daunting and scary. And it can make it seem like, oh, like I'm never going to get to all of the things that I want to do. And I feel that deeply because I have so many ideas and I have not enough time in the day or in my life or world or whatever, or energy. Even if I have the time, I don't have the energy to do all those things. And once you actually, it's kind of, again, giving yourself permission to let some things go and accept that you're never going to do them. Like, accept that you aren't going to get all of those chores done today, or accept that you are not going to go after being like the absolute number one best podcast ever because you just want to make a podcast. And it's kind of about making your goals more present and more attainable and not letting your ambitions actually make you less motivated. Because I think as a person who's very ambitious, very driven, sometimes that can be my own worst enemy and actually prevent me from getting things done. And so I'm only a couple chapters in, so I'll let you know how it goes. But it was interesting. The first two chapters were very much around like just accepting the fact that you have finite time on this earth. And that should actually be liberating and not scary. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying around memory and the memories we keep and why I'm so invested in memory. It started poking at this thing of like, why do I care so much about remembering everything and memories? And of course, it goes back to the story with my papa and just generally like you have so little time on this earth. Like, I just want to remember everything, but I can't. And like, I have to accept that I can't. And then by doing that, it actually lets you really fully absorb the things that you can do and actually go after it with a more sense of focus and energy and just like lightness and joyfulness about it, because it's not just something that you have to trek through to get off and check off the box and hit this goal and do this thing. It's about similar to like designing your life or designing joy into your life and really being present. And so I'm excited to see what the rest of the book has. I'm literally only, yeah, like 2 chapters in, but it's been really fun, and I think it really relates to a lot of creative folks' journey in general.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, I'm sure I can already hear listeners being like, "Yes, I know," because we all have so many ideas and we want to
Oh,
do all of
yeah.
them, and it's okay. It almost you can breathe that sigh of relief of, okay, like there are going to be some things that you don't do. So pick the
Yeah.
things that are most important, get after them, and then that's why I think it's important to quit those things that are no longer of interest to you if it's not
Yeah.
going the way that you wanted to, and
And
that's
don't hold yourself like, don't, like, reprimand yourself. I think that's a
yeah.
whole other piece of it is not getting down on yourself for making those choices and for also changing what you want. Because I think also people can get stubborn and, "Oh, I've always wanted to do this thing," and it's like, are you clinging on to that thing because you actually want to do it or just because you wanted to do that thing for so long? And is that goal or dream, or is that really serving you anymore? Is that bringing you closer to the people and places and experiences that you really want? Or is it just this idea that you feel like you have to check off because you told too many people about it?
Yeah. Yeah, and guess what? They don't care. No one's thinking about you.
Everyone's way too self-absorbed to remember any of this
Yeah,
shit.
no one's thinking about you. Sorry. Okay, so Meg, you already know the last question that I love to ask all my guests is, what is one activity that the listener can do in 10 minutes or less to live a more creative life?
Ugh, I love this question, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I feel like there's so many ways that you could go." So I think related to that book we were just talking about, 2 things that 2 things, or I guess it's like 1 thing, but kinda 2 things, you could do both under 10 minutes, like both of them together, is I'm a big list person. I love to journal, I love to list. It really soothes me to get words out of my brain and onto paper. Again, putting distance between me and my thoughts is just the most beneficial thing that I can do, truly, I think, for a lot of creatives, but, for me specifically, I feel like it helps me a lot in my creative process and just how I process life in general, and for me, I wake up in the morning, and I'm such a morning person, like, my brain is like, "Boom," like, "Gotta do this and that and this," and, like, all these things, and I have this idea and that idea, and then I'm not a night person, so I'm very, like, 8 PM onward, my brain is shut off. But so in the morning, I am trying to harness this, like, chaotic, productive energy in a way where it feels manageable, where I can actually get these things done and not feel disappointed at the end of the day when I didn't do my entire giant list of all the things I thought of that early morning. So what I started doing was instead of doing a to-do list, I started doing a don't list. And so listing 3 things I'm not gonna do today. So even if they're things that, like, I really want to do, like, "Oh, I really wanted to, like, make more progress on my newsletter. I really wanted to work on that YouTube video, and I really wanted to go skating today." And I also had, like, 12 other things on the list. It's like, okay, I really need to move my body, so let's prioritize skating, like, we wanna get outside today. Alright, maybe the YouTube thing and the newsletter thing are kind of both really big creative energy, like, uses, so maybe I don't do one of those today. So really picking at least 3 things not to do, and I think people think that'll be hard because, "Oh, 3 things is a lot," but if you think about everything you have to do today, 3 things is nothing. Like, if you think about literally all of the little teeny tiny tasks that we humans do just to live our lives, like, sometimes it'll be like, "You know what? I'm not gonna wash my hair today. Like, I'm just gonna take a body shower, and I'm just not, like, and that's okay." Or "You know what? I need to do groceries, and I need to do laundry, and I need to change our sheets, and I need to do XYZ." Okay, well, like, maybe we just do grocery shopping today, and then we do the sheets and the laundry tomorrow. So I think thinking about, like, those handoffs and then, again, really not being mad at yourself. I still struggle with this where even when I make my don't list and I'm like, "I even said I don't wanna do this, but I'm still longing to do this thing." Try to remind yourself that you are giving back to yourself that time and that energy to be more present in the other things that matter more that day. And so you could do a don't list, or if you're really struggling with a don't list and your to-do list is really big and you're like just thinking about that alone is really stressful. Cause sometimes I get into that mode too where I'm like, this is too much. I like to do a I get to do list. So instead of a I have to do or you should do, it's like, oh, I get to call my friend today and see how she's doing. Or I get to go outside and look at the sun or, like, touch some grass. So I think either one of those list prompts are usually my, like, go-to 10-minute, "How do I harness this creative energy and make me feel good about my day?"
Beautiful. Well, Meg, it was such a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so excited for you with your new role, your dream job that you get to have. And I'm looking forward to continuing to just be creative friends and be able to bounce ideas off of each other. So I appreciate you for coming on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for spending some of your time listening to this episode. I hope that you got some inspiration, some idea to move your creative project forward. I just love having these conversations with creatives who are creating work, some that we put out into the world, others that we create just for us. And the whole point of this show is really to inspire you to pursue your passions, pursue your creativity, whatever it looks like. Maybe you feel moved to start writing or creating videos or whatever creativity looks like to you. Maybe you want to explore new recipes or go out and play in your garden, whatever it is. I hope these episodes encourage you to live a more creative life. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. And until next time, go create something.